You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account. From Apple to VIX and everything in between, if it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report. And now, get ready to scan the tape for the most explosive options activity on the street. It's time for the Hot Options Report.
The Hot Options Report is brought to you by Public. Now, if you're listening to this show, chances are that you're pretty serious about options trading. So let me put something on your radar. Public. It's the most cost-effective way to trade options. That's because Public is the only platform that gives you rebates on your options trades. They also have some of the industry's lowest index options fees, whether you're placing single leg or complex multi-leg trades. Every dollar counts. Check out public.com/optionsbrief and discover the most cost-effective way to trade options. Again, the Hot Options Report brought to you by Public. Full disclosures in the podcast description. All right, everybody, let's get down to business with the Hot Options Report for Friday, July 17th, our first full week of hot options action. Let's see what's lighting up the tape out there today. Let's kick things off out there in the land of volatility, listeners. Our old pal VIX having a pretty spicy day today. 956,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV is 741, so obviously beating that out there today. Now, if you listen to Vol Views, you know things got a little bit heated towards the latter portion of the show volume-wise. Started out decently active day, around 500,000 contracts, but we saw quickly getting up to 750 during the show. Looks like the big dog out there today was the AUG 35s, going up nearly 100,000 times. Again, you know, if you listen to that show, which you should be if you're checking out the Hot Options Report, make sure you're subscribed to the full network, the Options Insider Radio Network. Wherever you get your favorite podcasts, you got nearly a dozen shows coming at you throughout the week, including Volatility Views. If you heard that show, you know that it was actually a 1/4 ratio vertical that drove that paper. It was the AUG 2135, or roughly 1/4, maybe close to 1/3, but 3.5. They ended up doing a total of 32,000 of the 21 calls against about 100,000 of the 35s. So 1/3, close to 1/4 out there, depending on the chunks. Went out, first block went up for about $4.03. Typically in these verticals, listeners, you're selling one and buying multiples. So the upside in this case, it would be buying 3, buying 4. But there is OI on both of these strikes, so they could be unwinding something out there as well. Just something to bear in mind. A busy day. VIX cash going out a little bit shy of the 16.5 level, about 1641. Let's keep rolling out to SPY, listeners. Was it a banger day out there in SPY land? And the answer is no. Kind of interesting when VIX and SPY diverge like that from a volume perspective. But VIX is one of those products where it could be a sleepy day, then all of a sudden, a couple 100,000 contracts pour in from a spread, and next thing you know, it's a pretty active day. SPY ebbs and flows with the market, and today it was ebbing a little bit, listeners. Only 7.5 million contracts on the tape. The ADV, 8.28 million out there, so not even hitting the ADV, about 750,000 contracts shy of that. What was the hot option out there in SPY today? You know it was expiring today. The question is, what was it? It was the 628 calls, which is interesting. We went out right around 627 and a half in that ballpark, listeners. So once again, if you paid anything for those calls, you weren't a happy camper today. If you sold them, though, you're looking all right. Again, 638,000. So much action on these 0-day contracts, listeners. It's getting kind of wild. Let's go out to the S. Was it a wild day in the S? It was about average. The ADV is 3.7 million, about 3.55 million contracts going up in the S today. The hot option in the S, the 6,300s, 168,000 of those bad boys. Where do we go out? Pretty close to that. But once again, close but no cigar, listeners, 62.96.79. So once again, if you paid literally a penny for those 6,300s, you lost money today, unfortunately. If you sold them, you're a happy camper. Again, depends what you sold them for, but either way, you're a happy camper, even if you had to sweat it out a little bit towards the end there. Going out to small caps, listeners, 1.25 million contracts on the tape. Again, about an average day. The ADV in small caps at about 1.32 million. The hot option in small caps keeping the trend alive. August downside all the time. This time it was 85,000 of the August 213 puts. So small caps, once again, marching to the beat of their own drummer. Out to the Qs we go. The NASDAQ, 3.88 million. Slightly heavy out there. The ADV about 3.7 million. The hot option in the Qs today, 311,000 of the 561 calls. And you know what? If you paid less than 18 cents for them, you're a winner, chicken dinner. The Qs went out 561.18 today, listeners. So once again, we're seeing a lot of these 0-day heavy names pinning or getting close to it on a very, not quite regular basis, but a more frequent basis, shall we say. Very interesting how that's playing out there, listeners. All right, to the single names we go. What was lighting up our tape? What made it into the top 10? If you've been listening to this show all week, you know it's been a pretty wild top 10 on the single name equity front this week, listeners. A lot of hot names, a lot of new names make it into the top 10, which is always fun. Was that the case today? Let's find out. It was a spicy day out there, listeners. Cost you 673,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. That got you to our old pal Palantir. You know, things are always spicy when Palantir is all the way down at number 10, threatening to get kicked out of the top 10, listeners. Again, by way of comparison, just yesterday, it only cost you about 491,000 contracts to break into the top 10. So a much more active day out there today. What was the hot option in Palantir today? It was nearly 80,000 of the 155 calls. And again, if you paid anything for those bad boys, you weren't a happy camper today because they went out, or the stock went out, I should say, 153 and about a half out there, listeners. So no joy for the one doubles in Palantir. Number 9, listeners, it's Mara, our old pal Mara, making it back into the top 10. Haven't seen them in it in a little while. 762,000 contracts for them on the tape today. The hot option in Mara, it was the July 20s. 92,000 of those bad boys. Same deal. If you paid literally anything for those, listeners, you're not a happy camper. Mara went out right around 19 and a half bucks today. Number 8, AMD, listeners, 850,000 contracts on the tape. The big dog, the hot option out there today, 94,000 of the 160 calls. Again, expiring today. Once again, if you paid anything for those today, you are not a happy camper. The stock went out right around 157 today. So far, we've been saying all week, options expiring on Friday are obviously the hot thing in the single name equities. And the question was, for a lot of these names, can we make it there? And it seems like so far for a lot of these, the answer is a resounding no. All right, to number 7, it's Coinbase sneaking into the top 10 today. 950, nearly a million contracts going up in Coinbase today. That is wild. Again, it was crypto week out there in Congress, so that's driving a lot of action. Obviously, we hit new all-time highs in Bitcoin earlier this week. ETH, other crypto assets having hot weeks. So Coinbase makes some sense. They would sneak in there, but nearly a million contracts. That is a hot day. 958,000 contracts. What was the hot option on a hot day in Coinbase? It was the 420s, man. So close. We went out 419.78, listeners. And once again, if you paid literally a penny for those, you paid too much. Keep on rolling out to Apple, the fruit company, coming in at number 6, listeners. 1.03 million. It's been a while since we've seen Apple hit 1 million contracts, listeners. So again, it was a spicy day out there. All it takes is a little bit of red on the screen, listeners, to gin up some action out there. And we had a little bit of red for most of the day, at least. So that certainly helped out there. 1.03 million, the hot option in Apple. It was the 212 half calls, 139, almost 140,000 of those going up today. And once again, if you paid a penny for those, you paid too much. Stock went out 211.18. By the way, of course, I'm talking about closing prices. These options could have obviously been in the money. You could have made money buying them or selling them during the day. We're just talking about the closing values here, obviously, listeners. Number 5, to Robinhood we go. 1.05 million. Again, that is a lot of paper for Robinhood. What was the hot option in Robinhood today, listeners? 35,000 of the 110 puts. And if you paid less than 26 cents for those, you are a happy camper today because the stock went out at 109.74, listeners. So wild stuff. We don't see a lot of puts dominating the tape in these names outside of things like small caps. So kind of interesting to see. A number 4, this one has been an infiltrator into our top 10 all week. No signs of it slowing down. We were just doing our Options Oddities program for our pro members, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. If you want to check it out, a lot of folks were swinging on some of the at the money calls in Open today, and it worked out pretty well. Of course, Open coming in at number 4, 1.11 million contracts. This is wild paper for a roughly $2 name, which was just $1 not that long ago. There are a lot of people in the option space who would say, hey, at that point, just buy the forever call, aka the stock. But no, 1.11 million contracts going up in Open today. What was the hot option in Open? You could probably guess it was the 2 calls expiring today. 206,000 people just flying in the face of that advice to buy the stock instead. Nope, going for the 2s, including some of our pro members who rolled the bones on those, got some for I think around a dime. We're able to dump them, I should say. We're able to dump them for much higher prices later on in the session. So congrats to you. Open going out at right around 2.25 today, listeners. So those 2 calls looking pretty good. If you paid less than a quarter for them today, congrats to you. Out to number 3, it's the monster, aka MicroStrategy. 1.23 million. Again, a very hot day to end the week. A lot of this also having to do with the fact that so many of these equity options, so much of the paper is locked into the weeklies, that today is obviously expiration day, so that obviously drives a little bit of flow out there in these names as well. All week long, we've been saying, man, are we going to hit these strikes that are trading actively all week long? Today is the day we find out. 1.23 million contracts in MicroStrategy. The big dog, the hot option in Monster today, 56, almost 57,000 of the 460s. My goodness, that one looks like a bit of an ouchie out there. We were talking about 465s yesterday on the hot option report. No chance for those when the stock went out 455. Today, the stock going out 423. Thankfully, it seems like the lion's share of these 460s was selling, so some folks obviously bailing on these, maybe getting short as well. That was clearly the strategy, because if you paid anything for the 460s, listeners, that went out as a bit of an ouchie. The stock, again, going out right around 423.25. So 460, very much in the distant rearview mirror for MicroStrategy. Number 3. Number 2, this is a bit of a shakeup. NVDA falling to number 2 today. 3.11 million contracts on the tape. What was the hot option in NVIDIA? It was 355,000 of the 172 halves. Once again, coming within spitting distance of that strike. So a lot of these names flirting with pinning again, which is kind of interesting to see pin risk coming back on the radar. If you don't know what that is, check out some of our educational content like Options Bootcamp, listeners. The stock went out 172.41. So once again, if you paid literally anything for these calls today, they went out worthless for you. And the number 1, the big dog in the options market today, the hot option dominating the tape. What was it? It was Tesla, fighting its way back into the number 1 spot. If you've been listening to our content for a while, you know that Tesla was the king for a long time. NVIDIA has taken the throne over the last couple of years, but it's always a slugfest between these two every day. Today, Tesla regains the crown. 3.36 million contracts on the tape for Tesla. The hot option in Tesla, man, this is a hot one. 445,000 of the 330 calls. And guess what? If you paid anything for those, listeners, they went out worthless. The stock went out 329.65. Just a wild day, a wild week. Thanks to everyone who tuned into the Hot Options Report this week. We will be back next week talking more hot options. Until then, stay safe out there, everybody.
Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in podcast description.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.